Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krito Vande Bhagavanto Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya dakshina murtaye namaha. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Dayakaram Dayakaram Dantan Dharma Pravartakam Pranamami Dayanandam Madacharya Paramparam. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. So we are seeing Vidyaranya in Pañcadaśī is using various tools to analyze mainly the Mahavakya, which is the great saying. One of the most famous great sayings is Tattva-viveka. Tattva-viveka literally means you are that. And these three words require a whole lifetime of unfoldment. Hopefully not lifetime, for many it becomes clear through using very elaborately discussed tools of unfoldment to understand what is really the meaning of Tat, what is the meaning of Tvam. Tat means that, what is the meaning of you, and how, on what level is the equation made. So here all that he is questioning is, how can this Jiva and Ishvara be one? Because again and again Shastra, the text, keep telling us that there is only oneness here, that on the intrinsic level we are all the same thing. We are one unbroken, undiminished whole consciousness, and that is the essence of the entire Jagat. So here there is some tools that he is going to use called lakshanas. So some of you may be familiar. Yes, we will do the first two verses before we begin, the prayer verses of Pañcadaśī. Natva Shri Bharati Tirtha Vidyaranya Munishvaro Adhimahe Pañcadaśīm Kaivalya Pada Siddhaye. Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padambujanmane Savilasa Mahamoha Graha Graseika Karmane. So we thank the Acharyas for giving us the texts that help us to unfold the Mahavakya. So if we take the direct meaning, definitely it is not going to be possible to see the equation. Direct meaning means, if I direct that Ishvara, the all-powerful, all-knowing, omnipresent one, is the same as this small knowing, small present, and small powerful being, which is the jiva. If we take the direct meaning, it is going to be impossible to understand the revelation here. So there is something that he uses, a tool that is used called Bhaga Tyaga Lakshana. I think maybe some of you have heard of this before. It is a technical term in Vedanta, these lakshanas, and we're going to see a little bit how these Pañcakosha, we did an analysis just yesterday using another tool, Anvaya Vyatireka. Anvaya Vyatireka means co-presence and co-absence. So what is there when something else is not? Basically to see what is there when something is absent. If something is always there when other things are absent and keep coming and going, then that one thing must be the truth. The one that always inheres and everything else around it keeps changing. So that was one of the tools taken from, we saw the Nyaya Shastra, the logicians, and now he takes up another way of analyzing, which is called Lakshanas. And this is to understand that these Pañcakoshas cannot be this self. The whole idea is to see very clearly that I, the self, the one that is always self-revealing, self-effulgent, self-shining, cannot be that which is always changing, even though at this present moment I'm identified totally with the ever-changing. And because of that identification, what happens to me? I always keep changing. So throughout my life, I'm also changing along with the changing. And this is what we don't like. It's against the nature. We love to be ourselves, and that self is a limitless, it is a non-changing self. So this is what he will unfold. It is understanding that even though the self plays many roles, like we have this perennial equation in Vedanta, which is B equals A, but A does not equal B. Usually the equations work both ways, but this is a strange equation, Vedanta equation. B equals A does not equal B. Beggar equals actor, but actor does not equal beggar. So if you're playing, if the actor is playing some role in some drama, he is taking on the role of that script. The actor, does he change? Does he change? He changes the dress, he changes maybe his voice, he changes his look, but intrinsically that actor is the actor. He knows I'm playing a role. He knows if I play this role really well, I can win some awards. He also knows that. And the actor happily plays the role of a beggar in the movie. He plays happily the role of suffering. He plays happily the role of going after food, asking people, being refused, because he knows it is a movie. He is not really the role. So actor equals beggar. Actor does not equal beggar, but beggar is dependent on the actor. So that equals is talking about, when you see equals in the Vedanta equation, it is dependent. Is the actor dependent on the beggar for his existence? Can the actor exist independently of that role he plays? Very easily can exist independently. Takes off the dress of the role, he still remains. He can put on the dress of another role. In fact, we are playing so many roles in this day-to-day life. Different hats we don, right? Throughout the day. 1 minute mother, 1 minute sister, 1 minute friend. Are we the same role with everybody? In fact, we are playing roles in life. If you see, whole life is role playing. That's the stress, because I get involved with the roles. When I get involved with the roles I'm playing, then I get sucked in, I don't understand the equation. here it is the beggar is dependent on the actor. When you say B equals A, the beggar role is dependent on the actor, but the actor is independent of the role. The actor is free to play varieties of roles. Actor need not restrict to the beggar role. The role of beggar does not define the actor. So exactly like this, Atma plays through the body, mind, senses, is playing different roles in life. All of us are playing different roles in life. All the roles are Atma. So roles equal Atma, but Atma does not equal roles. This is the whole idea here. Atma is much more than all the roles, because Atma can be free of the roles and it can be okay. So this is how we understand more and more that we are free from all the roles that are given to us in this drama of life. So this is what he's going to do. How are we going to negate these roles? How are we going to negate this particular body, mind, sense complex which takes on different dresses? And how are we going to come to know that there is an actor beyond all these roles? That is the idea he is given here. And how do I discover the actor's essence is Sat Chit Ananda? If the actor's essence is Sat Chit Ananda, the role's essence is also Sat Chit Ananda, but the role is a mere role. Role has its own problems. That is where we have to learn to keep the role's problems with the role that belongs to the script. But remind ourselves, I am untouched by the scripts I play. So here he says, he brings in this reasoning with this lakshanas. Parat in 43rd verse, we can chant. Para parat manorevam.
Para parat manorevam.
Para parat
manorevam.
Yuktya sambhavitaikata.
Yuktya sambhavitaikata. Yuktya sambhavitaikata.
Tattva-viveka sa.
Tattva-viveka. Tattva-viveka.
Bhagat, it's bhaga, I think it says bhaga, it's bhaga. Bhagatyagena lakshyate.
Bhagatyagena lakshyate. Bhagatyagena lakshyate.
So we're going to see some technical terms here. So it'll take a bit of time to understand. It's just interesting, how these sentences have been analyzed. So much intricacy in analyzing just 3 words. Tattva-viveka, that's it. It's all to show the oneness of the individual with Ishvara. And this oneness is pointed out through this type of reasoning. So we saw that I am Satchitananda, that whole Ishvara is also Satchitananda, and how am I one and the same? This is called Lakshanartha. So Bhagatyaga Lakshana is to understand who I am first. First I minus, with this type of analysis, I minus who I am not, minus what Ishvara is not, and then whatever is underneath the minuses is what is. So here we're talking about the koshas on our level. So there are 4 Mahavakyas that are analyzed through this method. We saw Tattva-viveka is one of them. Tattva-viveka comes from the Samaveda. So I'm not sure whether you know how, I think you must have learned there are 4 Vedas. These Vedas were actually mantras which were in the ether. Mantras were picked up by the rishis who are in the seat of meditation. So these mantras were always there, it is held, they were always there for anybody who can tune into the frequency of Ishvara to pick up. Now, many things are there in this Jagat to be discovered. So when we say discovery as well, right? What does it mean? Even when we use the word, I don't know about in Swedish or other languages, but discover is a beautiful word in English. It means that something is already there and you're just uncovering it. This is exactly like self-knowledge. This knowledge is already there. These mantras were already there. It is held. And these rishis were able to tune into the frequency, the sounds, and pick up these mantras. And Vedas are just a constituent of mantras. And they were all over the place initially. But there was a great person in the lineage. In fact, when we celebrate Guru Purnima, which is a very big function in India, which is the birthday of the Gurus, if you'd say, it is the celebration of a whole lineage of teachers. But it begins first with Dakshinamurti, celebrating Dakshinamurti, who is the Lord Shiva in the form of teacher. But under Dakshinamurti, if you see the Guru Parampara, there's a lineage photo you may see. There is a person with totally white hair and long white beard. A lot of the rishis are depicted like that to show their emotional maturity, inner maturity. And that is Veda Vyasa. He's called Veda Vyasa. And he had, an ability to put all the mantras together and categorize them. He did not author the Vedas because they are a Paurushaya, they are not man-made. They are received knowledge. He had a way to categorize the Vedas, and he put them again in 4 particular categories called Sama, Atharva, Rig and Yajur. These are the 4 major Vedas. And each body of Veda has mantras, has Upanishads, and has also different ways of using it. So we won't go into too much depth in that, but there are many ways of using particular Vedas for different things. But generally they all have Upanishads, and all of them contain this self-knowledge. All of them contain not just the equations I'm going to tell you now, but they have a lot of these great equations which reveal the oneness of Ishvara and the Jiva. The most famous is Tattva-viveka. You are that, which comes from Samaveda. Samaveda is very interesting. It's sung. Maybe in India, when I take you, when you go to the Paఠశాlas where they're trained in these Vedic chanting, from very young they're trained to chant the Vedas, hear them and keep chanting. It's a very different type of chanting. It's like Se tu stara, and they will sing. The origin of music is said to come from Samaveda. So everything is a musical note, and then they practice. You have to hold on to certain notes for a length of time. It's very interesting. And it's beautiful to hear because it sounds like a song. So the Rig Veda are the ones that we, when we chant the swaras, the 3 intonations go up and down, those put to music in musical notes called Sama. So Tattva-viveka comes in Chandogya Upanishad, which is in Samaveda. Then you have another Mahavakya, Aham Brahmasmi. Another famous Mahavakya, I am that Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi. Again, a great saying equating the Jiva, the individual, with the total, and that comes from Yajur Veda. The third Mahavakya we have is Prajnanam Brahma. This Prajnanam Brahma means the consciousness, this Prajnanam, which is individual, is Brahman, is that consciousness, and that comes from Rig Veda. And finally, I am Atma Brahma, this Atma is that Brahma. I am Atma Brahma. This Atma is that total, that is pure consciousness, and that comes in the final Veda, Atharva Veda. So throughout these Vedas, so many mantras are there, but suddenly you find these Mahavakyas in the Upanishads that reveal oneness. And that is what is analyzed by using these tools. This oneness is unfolded by implication. It is not a direct unfoldment. This is something very interesting in Vedanta, because you also read in many books, Vedanta books, words have no access to Brahman. Words have no access to consciousness. Why? Because it is the very subject. It is not objectified. It is the very objectifier. Words have access to what? Only objects of knowledge. Words have access to the objects of the world. They reveal certain things. So how do we use words to reveal this? So this is how the rishis have given tools to show that words can be used by implication, meaning the implied meaning, they're revealed, and the mind gains the knowledge through implication, implied meaning. So let's have a look at this. The first method for understanding is mukhyartha. It's called mukhyartha vritti. Mukhyartha vritti. Mukhyartha vritti is the primary or direct meaning of a word. What is the primary or direct meaning? Whatever immediately strikes you in your head, knowledge, when something is spoken, that is called primary direct meaning of anything. I think it will become clear when we take some examples, you will see. The Mukhyartha is the default meaning of anything. What that word means by itself. Like if I say here is a case, or here is a plastic case, that is a primary direct meaning. Here is a small plastic bottle. Primary direct meaning, Mukhyartha. There is no implied meaning here. If I say this, there's no implication here. So, Mukhyartha, here is a tree, or there is a tree. Primary meaning, immediately knowledge takes place. Yes, it is a tree. So, it is the immediate, direct meaning of any sentence, any word. It is called Mukhyartha, or sometimes Vachyartha, another Sanskrit word is used. If I say to somebody, pick up that chair, the direct meaning, the person will go up. I don't mean anything else by that, right? Pick up a chair means pick up a chair. Pick up a chair doesn't mean if you pick up I thought you meant pick up the bottle. No, you don't have any knowledge that takes place like that. Then it would feel very weird, no? If you say something which can be understood directly and you imply something through that, actually thinking about it, we do that a lot. Somebody means something very directly, Mukhyartha, but you take it as Lakshana. No, they don't really mean that. They're saying something else. We're doing it all the time, actually. Poor things, they may be saying something very simple. Do this or do that. See this. But the mind interprets, oh, no, they mean something else. I mean, that's interesting to see. Now, using these tools, you can analyze your own thoughts. It's very, very interesting. So Mukhyartha is the direct meaning. But what if Mukhyartha does not make sense? What if the direct meaning does not make sense to you? So there is a standard example given in the Shastra, Gangayam Goshaha. Gangayam Goshaha means there's a village on the Ganges. Gangayam Goshaha, village on the Ganges. Now what is the primary meaning? Can a village be in the water? Ganga. Primary meaning, Ganga is a river. Is there a river? Is there a village right in the river? No. So we can't take Mukhyartha. You can't take the primary meaning. It is implied meaning. So this is the first level of implied meaning. Implied meaning means you have to add a word there to make sense. What is that word? There is a village on the banks of the Ganga. So you're adding what? Banks. So Mukhyartha is not there anymore, not direct meaning, But through your knowledge, when somebody says, Gangayam, if you understand Sanskrit, but there's a village on the Ganges or Ganga. There's a village on the Ganga. What would you say? Immediately, you already in your head, when knowledge is there, you will not think it is water, right? In the water. See, many times people use, if I say now door, you will understand Swamini is saying shut that door, right? Many times we don't need to use all the language to make sense because we already programmed, we know that what is being meant. We add extra when we understand things in our mind. We're always adding extra things or minusing things. You'll see this adding extra. Here we're adding extra. On the banks, it is being added with our knowledge immediately because brain has already been trained from young to know on the Ganga cannot be. Look how brilliant we are. We already in 2 seconds deciphered it can't be in the water, so it has to be banks. Already mind has done it, but the knowledge is so fast, we don't see that we are already doing the discernment. We have done discernment here. So this is called implied meaning. One of the implied meanings, lakshanas, Gangayam Goshaha, that is, we'll see more. There's another example of implied meaning. These are different implications. And that is called, another example, Ramaha Simhaha. Ramaha Simhaha means Rama is a lion. Rama is a lion. Does it mean Rama is literally a lion? If, maybe a child will take it like that. But if our mind is a bit developed, what will we know? Rama has the characteristics of a lion. When you say Rama is a lion, so this type of implied meaning, using characteristics of something else to describe someone or something, is called Gaunartha. Gaunartha is a different name. The first one is not using the characteristics, it is adding an extra word to give you knowledge, implied knowledge. Here you are using the characteristics to give you implied knowledge, right? Ramaha, it is called Gaunartha Vrittihi. This is the second lakshana here. Rama is not a lion. The word belongs to, the characteristics belong to the lion, but we are applying it to the person. To explain the person has the characteristics of a lion. There are many things in English, I don't know, maybe in Swedish also you have. I just found a few. We say fish out of water. The person's a fish out of water, meaning you don't fit in somewhere. Literally, I'm not a fish, right? If we're not really fish. Fish out of water means we're not, really. So, fish out of water, wolf in sheep's clothing. That's another saying in English. That person's a wolf in sheep's clothing. Somebody who is deceitful. So, all of these we use in our day-to-day language. This is all called Gaunartha, by implication. When you hear somebody say, oh, he's a fish out of water, do you really believe he's a fish? No. You know he doesn't fit in. Immediately you have the implied meaning through the characteristics of a fish. Brilliant actually how knowledge takes place. Just implied meaning, he's a fish. Then you have, I found another one in English, top dog. You say he's a top dog. Top dog means he's very good. He's excellent at what he does. Dark horse, he's a dark horse. So these are all English idioms. So very interesting, the animals especially. He's a dark horse means you can't understand him. He's a dark horse. You don't know what he's really like. He's a dark horse. He's hiding his real self. So anyway, like this, you have also in other languages, we live by not just direct meaning of everything. It's a very good, interesting exercise. Knowledge takes place through different types of implied meaning. This becomes very important when you analyze Tattva-viveka. That's why all of this is being brought in. So, in Gangayam Goshaha, there is no quality involved. So it is the implied meaning, primary literal sense, there's no, it can't be the primary literal sense, but it's implied meaning in another way. But when you use the analogies like Rama is a lion or a fish out of water, when you describe a human being, it is the characteristics that you're using. Both ways, knowledge takes place by implication, and these ways of, this knowledge taking place are called lakshanas in Sanskrit. Lakshanas. There is another example that I found. You can see a city, the city sleeps. When you say the city sleeps, is the city really sleeping? No, city does not sleep. Cities don't sleep. Who sleeps in the cities? It is the people of the city. So you add in your head, when you hear the city sleeps, the people of the city are sleeping. So it seems as if the city is sleeping. So this is what is called lakshana. Lakshana, lakshyartha vrittihi. These are all vrittis, thought forms, which help knowledge to take place in your mind. So implied meaning. And among these lakshanas, this is the beauty here. Now we go, that's why I didn't want to do in the morning this class. So much depth you have to go in. Among these lakshanas, there are 3 types of lakshanas. Okay? So even the implied meaning, 3 types. So first one is called jahati or jahad lakshana. Jahad lakshana. So jahad lakshana is abandoning the primary meaning or direct meaning, which is mukhyartha. You abandon the primary meaning and you take the implied meaning. So the primary meaning, we'll see with examples. So you give up the primary meaning and you take another word connected to the primary meaning, because the primary meaning is not tenable. This is the jahad lakshana, is what Gangayam Goshaha is. Jahad lakshana. So you give up the primary meaning, Ganga, the river, and you add something associated with the river, which is banks of the river. That is called Jahad Lakshana. So you abandon the literal object and you take an intended, related person or group or something to make sense of the sentence. I found a few. When you say modern ones, something not just connected with Ganga and everything. When you hear the White House in press conferences, the White House denied it. Is the House really denying anything? No, the people, the officials of the White House, you have to add that. The officials in the White House denied any knowledge of it. Bollywood is mourning the loss of the actor. Bollywood is mourning. Bollywood is not an entity. It is a group of actors that is mourning the loss of some other actor. The crown apologized. Is it a literal crown apologizing? No, the crown is used for the collective group it represents is the royalty. The crown apologized. You see this in English all the time. We are living in implied meanings. So this is called Jahad Lakshana. And there is another one, Ajahat or Ajahat Lakshana. Ajahat Lakshana means you keep the primary word. So first when you give up the primary word and you add something for it to make sense. Here, the second type of Lakshana, Ajahat Lakshana, what do? You keep the primary word and you fill in the missing relation so it makes sense. So here in this type of lakshana, then you have to add in or on or of or with or from. We will see it. It is ajahad. Jahad means to give up. Ajahad means don't give up. Don't give up the primary meaning, but add something for it to make sense. It is not a quality transfer or any other kind of metaphor. So again, I found a few things in this Ajahat Lakshana in English that we use, on a day-to-day basis. I ate the whole plate. I say I ate the whole plate. So Did we really eat the plate? We say that, especially here, we eat the whole plate. It's so delicious. Every meal is delicious. I ate the whole plate. What do we have to add? We have to add something of food. But we don't have to add it physically, because when somebody tells you, I ate the whole plate, already your mind is adding. It has to be with food. So, ajahad lakshana. Through ajahad lakshana implication, you have not given up the primary word. What is the primary word? Plate. You have not given up plate. But for plate to make sense, you add something else. It is different from the previous one. That's jahad lakshana. You give up the primary meaning and you replace it with something else. White House denied it. We don't add anything. White House is representatives, so the officials denied it, not the White House. I ate the whole, turn up the Beethoven, when you say. Turn up the Beethoven is one of my favorite composers. Turn up the Beethoven. What does that mean? It's not actually a physical person you're saying. Turn up the music of Beethoven, right? So when somebody says turn up the Beethoven, you understand it is not anyone being referred to. So like this ajahat lakshana, you don't give up the primary word. You add something for it to make sense. I read Shakespeare. Do we really read the person? No, I read Shakespeare, meaning you add, I'm reading the writings of Shakespeare, reading the books of Shakespeare. Already you know in your mind, this is how this ajahat lakshana works. The kettle is boiling. Kettle, we say kettle's boiling now. Is the kettle really boiling? Kettle of water. We recognize of water. Ajahad lakshana, we are speaking all the time in jahad lakshana, ajahad lakshana. By implication, all of this, our conversations is making sense. In fact, it'd be very interesting one whole day to see how many times we talk in implication rather than direct. Usually the direct, Shastra always says, if you can take the direct meaning of anything, take it. That is the best way. But life is not so direct. Even that reveals, right? Whole Mithya Jagat is not very direct. There's a lot of implications here. And even the languages that we have represent that. The final lakshana that the Shastras discuss is the one we are interested in, which is called Jahat Ajahat Lakshana. Jahat Ajahat Lakshana, or Bhaga Tyaga Lakshana, which Vidyaranya has brought in. There are two words for this, Jahat Ajahat Lakshana or Bhaga Tyaga Lakshana. So we take the primary meaning of the words, we take the meaning of both words, but in both words something is given up and something is retained. So Bhagatyaga means you give up something and you retain something else. Like example is, I ate the banana. When I say I eat the banana, I ate the banana. What is eaten? That is retained. What is eaten? What is given up? The skin. So you give up the skin of the banana and you eat the banana. Okay, I ate the banana. So why is this one important? Because, again, after all this explanation, we see the oneness of Jiva with Ishvara is revealed through this Lakshana. Giving up something from Jiva and giving up something from Ishvara, not giving up something from Jiva, not giving up something from Ishvara, both equal each other. So what is to be given up from the individual, Jiva, and what is to be given up from Ishvara? That is what all of this is for, to understand what is that thing to be given up from the Jiva, what is that thing to be given up from Ishvara. So when we give up something from the Jiva, what can be given up? As we are seeing now, Panchakoshas, all this methodology, can I still exist without the koshas? This is the question. without these koshas or shariras seen in a different view, can I still continue to exist? Veda Pramana says yes. You are an ever-existent being. That's where the Pramana comes and reveals, minus koshas, minus shariras, you still exist. Because the essence of the self is what? Satyam. Sat or Satyam. And what is the definition of Satyam? Trikalepi yattishtati iti Satyam. That which is in all three periods of time. It was there in the past, it is in the present right now, and it will continue to be there in the future. Satyam is the essence of everything here, isness. And that isness, when it is expressed through a particular mind, is amness. Isness equals amness when it comes through the recognition, I am. That same isness that is in the whole Jagat, if the Jagat would have a mind, anything in the Jagat with the mind will also express amness. I exist, I know, I am. That is the amness, which is chit. So the jiva, sat chit, and is it limited? If the question comes, is this sat chit limited to the particular name and form? Then Shastra brings in another word, ananda or anantam. So you have Satyam Jnanam Anantam or Satchit Ananda. These are synonyms. Sat and Satyam are the same. Chit and Jnanam are the same. Ananda and Anantam are the same. Limitless. So that Sat and Chit, existence and amness, isness and amness, is not reserved to each name and form. In between the names and forms also is what? Isness and amness. It is that last word. People often wonder, why do we need that? If I know I am, if I know the Jagat is, I know it is one and the same, then why do we need the last word? We need the last word because there are darshanas or schools of thought that are born saying that Atma is only limited to one form. They don't explain what is between the different forms. Atma is only limited to certain forms, and it takes the size of the form. So elephant Atma will be huge. Ant Atma will be tiny. Atma takes the size of the form that it is manifesting through. So to avoid that understanding that Atma's isness and amness is limited to one or particular name and form, Ananta is brought in. Ananta means limitless. And when you talk about limitless, nothing can limit it. Limitless means it cannot be limited. Can it be limited by time? No. Can it be limited by space? No. Can it be limited by other objects? No. That limitless, that is the meaning of limitless. It cannot be limited by object-wise, it is limitless. Space-wise, it is limitless. Time-wise, it is limitless. So, Atma does not just pervade this particular name and form, it pervades even the space here. It pervades through, in and through everything in this Jagat. It is one and the same. But as though individual things, names and forms come as though alive because of the Sukshma Shariram only. Wherever I am, Sukshma Shariram manifests, there Atma is manifest. So this is the idea here. Here, this primary meaning of Tattva-viveka we cannot take because, as I said, all-knowing, all-knowledge, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent Ishvara cannot equal this little, not omni, tiny knowing, tiny present, tiny potent little individual. So that is called primary meaning. On the primary level, we can have mukhyartha, it will never make sense. Then do we have to give up something, only one thing, and then for it to make sense? No, we can't use the other lakshanas. We cannot use jad lakshana, implied meaning for this vakya. We cannot use ajahad lakshana for the implied meaning of this vakya. It is bhaga tyaga lakshana alone that works, which means that I retain something of the meaning and I give up something of the meaning. So what is it that we retain? We retain Satchitananda from Ishvara is also Satchitananda. We saw in the previous verses of Pañcadaśī that it is the one consciousness that manifests through the upadhi of Maya that creates the total conscious being that we call Ishvara. It is the one consciousness that manifests through the upadhi of avidya or causal body, karana shariram, that gives rise to this teeny-weeny individual. What is the common thing in both? One consciousness manifesting. That one consciousness manifesting is what is retained in the meaning. What is given up? Maya, upadhi is given up. Like the banana skin, it's given up. Maya upadhi is given up cognitively. Maya upadhi that conditions Brahman, conditioned consciousness. Like Maya makes Ishvara to be a one with attributes. Maya creates this Ishvara to be one with all the qualities, attributes. So we recognize Ishvara in the Jagat in the form of orders. What creates that? Maya, through the upadhi of Maya, the Jagat is seen in the form of various orders, qualities, characteristics, all of this with names and forms. Jiva as well, body, mind, sense, complex. These are the characteristics of the Jiva, the minds, the senses, the whole thing put together is the individual. That is called upadhi. It conditions consciousness. It conditioned consciousness means consciousness as though takes the name and form. Consciousness as though takes name and form Ishvara on the macro level, micro level here. Minus the name and form. Maya is the world of names and forms. Karana Sharira, or here, which gives rise to Sukshma and Stula, is the name and form of the individual. Then there is only consciousness. This is the equation. Tattva-viveka, the equation revealed using the lakshana, this implied meaning. This is called implied through implication. When all the words that you hear of Vedanta, so many words, they're all implied meaning. You have to take the implied meaning because no words have access. Implied meaning is to remove the covers and retain what remains. That is always shining, always the truth. On that level, there is oneness. So all of these tools are used. It will take some time to go over. We cannot, understand in one class. But these tools, you'll see more and more. If you contemplate on this, it can only be this type of implication where we can understand the oneness of the total with the individual. Otherwise, we will always see difference. I cannot be that Ishvara. How can I be that Ishvara? I cannot be Ishvara. He is all powerful. He is limitless. All in the form of orders. Me, how can I be that? No, take away the banana skin of body, mind, senses. Take away the banana skin of Ishvara's banana skin, Maya, and what remains? Banana. The banana of consciousness is all there is. Remove the skin and all you have is the bananas. So this we'll see more tomorrow. But I thought we'll reserve this for this class. Morning was a very different type of energy there. And we'll see more tomorrow. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayaः Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Satyamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ